Hello everyone and welcome to this new video. Today I will show you how I made a winter jacket from scratch. Well, not exactly from scratch because I recycled the shoulders and the arms that I used in a project a couple of years ago, but everything else and especially the design has been completely redrafted, so it's brand new. I've always loved jackets, but they are kind of a long project. It takes quite a long time to go through the entire sewing process, so I don't embark on this kind of project very often. But I really wanted to sew a jacket for this winter. I had this pattern in mind for quite a while and I was just waiting for my perfect fabric, and I found it on stragier.com. I will put the link in the description down below. And I had the lined fabric in my drawers like for years, so this one I already have. And then I just had to buy a couple of buttons and that was it. So as soon as I found this super great fabric, then I was just so happy and I decided I'm gonna go along with this one. I probably won't be publishing this pattern because I found that jackets have to be extremely well fitted to a person, and I know that if I publish a standard pattern, I cannot guarantee this. So if you are interested in me publishing the pattern knowing that you would have so many adjustments to make, then just let me know in the comments down below and maybe I'll consider to publish it. First, I created the basis of the pattern by copying the lower part of a jacket I made years ago, which fits me. I pinned the pattern paper on the jacket and marked the seams. I didn't do any adjustment to the shoulders and the arms, but I chose to do a mock-up to decide how I wanted the collar and lapel to look like. I was really lucky and my first mock-up worked out pretty well, so I chose to move on directly to the final pattern. I measured all my pieces around the armholes to make sure that the opening around the arm would be the same width as the opening on the bust. And again, I got really lucky and I only had to adjust 0.5 centimeter. When I was done with the adjustments, I laid all of the pieces on the fabric and pinned them in place. I added the seam allowance of 5 centimeters at the bottom and started cutting all the pieces. As my biggest challenge on this piece was the collar, I chose to tackle it first. I cut a rectangular piece for all the collar pieces and ironed some interfacing on it. Then I marked the pieces directly on the interfacing. I used two types of threads that I had in my drawer. The dark gray will be for the seams and the light gray will be for the basting part. As my interfacing is not of a super good quality and I'm a little bit afraid it might separate from the fabric, I maintained it in place by sewing 2 mm outside the edge of every pattern piece. I pinned the darts on the front pieces of the vest and sewed them in place by machine. Then I pinned the two back pieces right sides facing each other along the middle of the back, and I sewed them together in the middle. I cut the excess fabric and I press open the seams in the back and the darts on the front piece. I sewed the front and the back pieces together along the shoulder seams. Then I pinned the color stand piece on the bust of the vest, right sides facing each other, and I sewed the pieces in place by machine. I pinned the collar on the collar stand piece, right sides facing each other, and sewed them together. To maintain the collar stand piece momentarily, and as I want to hold all of the excess fabric in it, I basted it by hand. I cut all of the lining pieces of the collar and repeated the process. Then I sewn the two pieces together, right sides facing each other. I flipped the lining back on the right side and hand stitched it in place to maintain its shape. I pinned the side panels of the vest on the front and the back, right sides facing each other, and I sewed them in place. I cut the excess fabric and press open the seams. Moving on to the sleeves, I pinned the two pieces right sides facing each other along the seam under the arm. I sewed them together and stopped just before the button tab. I pinned the hem of the sleeve diagonally so that when I sew along this pin, I will have a nice junction between the hem and the button tab. I repeated the process on both sides of the opening. Then I just had to sew the buttonholes and the buttons in place, and this part of the sleeves was done. I pinned the remaining part of the sleeves right sides facing each other and sewed the pieces together. I also basted the hem by hand. I wanted to make sure that the fabric along the shoulders would not stretch, so I cut a piece of thick ribbon and hand stitched it along the shoulder seam on both sides of the seam. I carefully pinned the sleeves on the bust, right sides facing each other, making sure that the two seams under the arms would perfectly align on both pieces. And once this was secured, I sewed the pieces together. And I'm really sorry, but unfortunately I forgot to film this part. As I wanted to add shoulder pads to my jacket, I have hand sewn them along the shoulder seams and close to the collar to maintain them in place. Now that the sleeves are done, I am moving to the front of the vest. I use the same method as the one for the sleeves to have a clear hem, which is the fact that I pinned diagonally the excess fabric and sew along this line. Then I cut the excess fabric, flipped it back on the right side and press iron it. I pinned the hem in place and sewed 2 mm from the edge. My vest being mostly finished, I cut all of the pieces of the pattern in the lining fabric and repeated the process. I pinned the lining fabric around the collar piece, right sides facing each other, and sewed all along the pieces. I folded the lining over the hem and pinned it in place and hand sewed it. Finally, I used the same method for the hem of the sleeves. Very last step, I finally sewed a buttonhole and a button on the vest, and that was it. So here is the final jacket. I'm very pleased with it. I've been wearing it already 3 or 4 times since I finished it, and I had lots of compliments on it, so I was pretty happy. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. You will find the link to my Etsy page down in the description and also to my Instagram. Please do not hesitate to like and subscribe, and I will see you all very soon. Bye!